Welcome. I have had a few requests for some prenatal movements, and I thought it would be good to share this because actually they're just quite nice functional movements and can have an array of movement that we don't necessarily normally do in our Pilates and yoga classes that can be really supportive for general movement anyway. Obviously, if you are pregnant, please make sure that you've got your doctor's approval to do exercise, and be mindful depending on your fitness and how you're feeling, especially first trimester, just go really gentle on yourself. Second and third trimester, hips can be a particular issue and low back pain. So just be really careful, go gentle, and please do get specialist help if things aren't feeling right. So let's get going. So I would like to start on your hands and knees. And this is something you're going to have to be really mindful of with pregnancy stuff. Is a lot of scrabbling around on the hands and knees. So spread the fingers nice and wide. Really try and feel like there's big space between each fingertip. And then try and press a little into the fingertip so that the heel of palm are lifted. And then at the same time, press down the shins. And this is going to help you start to get that low core pelvic floor activation. And as you do that, just pressing fingertips and shins into the floor, feel the low ribs connect, feel the low belly draw in. And as you feel that, we're starting to get that core support, but without needing to go into any movement of the spine. And this is super important when pregnant. And just hold steady here for a moment, pressing the fingertips into the ground, the shins and the top of the feet into the ground. Feel that core connection. And then let it all release. And take an inhale, draw the chest up. Eyes can look up slightly. If your low back's tender, don't do that. Just stay in neutral and try and draw the shoulders back. Exhale, just gentle rounding of the spine. Push the shins down and the fingertips a little bit to help you get that core connection. And then as you inhale, if the low back is bothering you, just try and draw the shoulders down. So it's like you're trying to V the shoulders in behind your heart a little bit, but keep the low belly and the pelvis in neutral. Exhale, rounding up. Really move the shoulder blades apart. Breathe into the top of the shoulders. Get so stiff and so tight when you're getting heavier in the chest. And again. Find the length through the spine. Find the drawing forwards of the chest. Remember, keep the pelvis in neutral, or you can take that little arch if it feels okay for your back. One more exhale, rounding out through the spine. Really just trying to engage the core by pressing down through the shins, the top of their feet and their fingertips. And then coming back to your neutral spine. Now you might find that your wrists need a little break at this point, so we'll just sit back towards the heels and just shake out those wrists. There can be quite a lot of wrist work, something when doing pregnancy classes. So do take plenty of breaks, do little stretches, back the palms together, pull the fingers apart, and just help release the wrists whenever you need to. Okay, so we're going to come back out onto those hands and knees and just start to think about balance. So if you're earlier on, it will be a little easier for you to start to reach opposite arm and leg away and lifting them up for the balance. You may find that balance gets a bit trickier throughout pregnancy as the core gets a little harder to contain. So you're really going to want to get that pressing down of the shins and then pressing down into the fingertips to help you connect into those deep core muscles. And then for added challenge, just gently taking the arm and leg out a little bit to the side, challenging your balance a little further, holding it there, and then coming back in and releasing them back down. If that balance is feeling super tricky, you can just keep yourself on the floor and move out to the side. But if it feels okay, it's that pressing down through the supporting leg, through the supporting hand, that lifts you out and engages those core muscles. We're just going slow and steady for balance. So we just want to encourage gentle, slow movements. Trying to keep the torso square as you can. As you do this, and keep pushing the fingertips into the ground to try and lift the weight out of the wrists. If the balance is feeling funky, you're going to be pushing down that shin in particular, because that's really going to help you get that low pelvic floor area zipping up. I'm going to do one last one. Going out with that left leg and right arm, keeping everything nice and stable in the middle. And then just sit your bottom back to your heels depending on your stomach size. You could round forwards if you're in your first trimester. If you're in your second or third trimesters, you're just going to round the arms. Take a nice stretch of the upper back forwards. Okay, we're coming back out onto the hands and the knees. Again, so spreading those fingertips nice and wide. Nice easy twist. So you're just going to inhale, lift up and open. And then exhale, thread down and underneath. And as pregnancy develops, this might get a little harder to have a big range of movement. So just focusing on that movement in the top of the spine and the shoulder blades. And if you can, as you come through, a little press of the hand into the floor will help you get further into the twist. And then lift up and out of your supporting hand, lift out of the supporting shoulder. Exhale, thread down and under, little press into the floor, increase that twist. And inhale up. And exhale down and thread under. Press a little into the floor, get the twist. And then come back to both hands. We'll take it to the other side, lifting up and open. And as you're threading down and under, taking that little press to twist. And there's normally one side that starts to find it is getting more stiff. Maybe it's the side where you carry your bag. Maybe if you already have a child, it's where you've been carrying that other kid. Press the hand into the floor. Try and feel the little stretch in the back of the shoulder blade. One more time. Inhaling up. Exhaling, threading down, little press. And then release the hand to center. From here, we're going to come onto your sides. Now, have the knees bent. You can have the elbow on the floor if you're feeling a little stronger and your shoulders are okay. And you can keep this underneath waist nice and lifted as though we've got a ball or something underneath the chest. But if not, you can lie down and rest your head onto your arm. But try and keep an underneath waist lifted if you can throughout. So you can always pop your hand underneath if there's space to get your arm around. And then we're just going to start with some little exhales, lifting up the knee and down. And with these clams, we're trying to keep that top hip nice and still, so that the work is all in the back of the hip and that there's control in the pelvis. And this is super important as your pelvis is adjusting with the weight of the baby inside. Keeping the front ribs nice and soft as well, especially if you're somebody who's finding that it's really pulling your weight and your back into an arch. Having the baby, you want to keep those ribs nice and soft on the front body. Okay, from here, we're going to lift the knee up. Keep the knee up, bring the foot up to join it, and turn the foot up to the sky. We're now going to tap the knee down and lift it up. So we're going for what's called internal rotation. This is again going to just be helping with that balance. We just did external rotation, now we're doing internal rotation. So we're going to look to work all the muscles of the pelvis so that that keeps the pelvis in balance as best as possible. You got another 2. Last time, kicking the foot up to the sky. Now hold that knee up at hip height, drop the foot down so that you're in parallel. Knee and foot are at the same level, which is the height of the hip. And then you're just going to slide the legs straight beneath your sit bone. You should look down and be able to see your foot. And then bend it up. Now this one's tricky because it's definitely one where we want to start slumping in that bottom waist. So just making sure you still got that space underneath. And to do that, you're going to push this top hip away, keeping this top hip long and away rather than collapsing. See how I shorten my space in my waist? If I do that, it's actually harder. It's a lot easier if I keep this space underneath my waist. I work now the side muscle of the hips. Exhale as you press away to make it a little easier. And if you can, keep flexing through the foot, just helps us work away from the heeled shoes that we tend to wear, just giving us a little counter in the ankle work. Next time you're going to press out and hold the leg out nice and straight, and then just take some circles with that leg, just finding that pelvic stability nice and still in the pelvis, not wanting to let it rock and roll as you circle the leg. So just challenging that pelvic stability. For 2, 1, circle the leg the other way. Just again, going only so big in your circles as you can contain the pelvis staying still in that space of the underneath waist and the ribs nice and soft. For 2, for 1, hold the leg for a moment, just hold it there. Maybe trace it a little bit forwards, maybe trace it a little bit backwards. Trace it a little bit forwards and a little bit back. Try and keep that kneecap really pulled up as you do this, and make sure the hips aren't swinging, so stillness in the pelvis. It doesn't matter how big or how small this is, you should be feeling a nice burn round about now in this little hip area. Yum yum. So you're going for 2. And last 1. And then with control, bend the knee in, place it down, and give yourself a nice tap into that hip. Oh yeah. Okay, we're going to use the hand, push ourselves up onto your elbow. And try and make sure the elbow is right underneath the shoulder, because that's going to really help with any shoulder pain. Lift this underneath waist, and especially if you're not feeling super strong, just going to come up onto the knees. So you're going to exhale, push the weight into the forearm, lift up the underneath hip and waist to drive you up into a 3/4 plank, and then inhale down. If you're feeling strong, you can go for the next level up, which is straightening out one knee and lifting up. And then for anyone who maybe is really strong and really fit, you could have both legs straight and lifting up. And then coming back down. We're going to go for 5 in total. So finding that lifting up. Really push up from the underneath waist if you can. 1 more time, pushing up. Because, you know, we need to have strong elbows and arms and shoulders for children because they require lifting. Bend your knees into a comfortable lazy mermaid and take that bottom arm, reach it up and overhead for a big side stretch. And if your shoulder's hurting, you take the hand behind the head to support the head and the shoulder. Try and breathe into the side waist. And those side ribs. Okay, I'm going to release. I'm going to come round to the other side. So as we come down onto the other side, remember you can stay up on the elbow for the entire of that leg sequence. So on this side, I'm going to do that option for those of you who might have chosen it. So get those hips nice and stacked, elbow under the shoulder, and you just start with the clams. So starting to open out the knee. And as you're doing this, remember thinking about keeping these hips super still and square. So there is a fair amount of focus in this sequence on pelvic stability, because in the years of teaching pregnancy and prenatal work, this is definitely the area I find people have the biggest issues with, as the hormones affect the changes in the body. And there is a lot of movement going on, so it's really important that you keep that stability. Okay, 2. Next time, keep the knee up there, lift the foot up to join. Now lift the foot higher, so there's an internal rotation, and then start to let the knee drop down and up. Now this one, it's so tempting to want to collapse down in that shoulder, so I really want to make sure I get that underneath lift. And even if I was lying with my head on my arm, I still want to get that underneath lift of these low ribs and waist in particular, because that's where it really wants to compress down into the earth. I kind of want to collapse my core. We don't want to collapse the core. We're trying to find that core strength, but without needing to do sit-ups, so that you can keep that sense of strong pelvic floor, strong support. It's going to hold you centered as things change around you. You got another 2. Last 1. And then bend the knee back to level with the hip. Again, double check that there's that nice lift in the underneath waist, and then start to straighten out the leg and bend it in. As you're doing this, get that foot nice and flexed as well, so you're really kicking through the heel, and pull up the kneecap each time you extend the leg. Keeping that lovely lift in the waist will help keep that lift in the hips as well, keeping this nice length through the top waist, and that helps stretch out this low back area that can sometimes feel really quite tight in the QL. We go for 2, feeling the burn, 1 more, and then we're going for those circles, little circles, challenging that pelvic stability as we tire. Oh, isn't it so tempting to go into that salsa dancing, woohoo, with the hips, don't do it. Press down through the forearm if you're on your elbow, keep that lift in the underneath waist. Oh yes, kick through the heel and reverse those circles the other way. I know, it's getting intense, feeling that burn. For 4, 3, 2, 1, can we go for those little swings, trying to keep that kneecap pulled up. At this point, I know you're going to want to start to bend the knee, so just really pull up in that kneecap, really working it, that's it. Now, if you are getting pain and your pregnancy is really full on, you can do this with the knee bent. Okay, guys, so you can keep that knee a little bit bent. Same with the circles, you can do it all with the knee a little bit bent, and that will just help give you a bit more support. That's it, you're doing awesome, guys. And then bring the leg back, bent, knee down, and give yourself that tap. Okay, we're coming up onto the forearm for those 5 side planks. And the key here is that keeping flowing. We don't want to do long isometric holds when we're in pregnancy because that's not great for the baby. So we're just going to take that nice easy lifting up onto those knees. Or you might exhale onto one knee. And if you're feeling super switched on today, you could go for 2 legs. And those 2 legs can be staggered like I did earlier, or you can stack them. But whatever variation you're doing, elbow under shoulder, driving up from the bottom hip, lifting you up, and then come back down, bend the knees, lazy mermaid. Take that bottom arm up and over, big side stretch into the side ribs, side waist. Okay, so to finish, we're going to finish with a strong pose. So hopefully you're going to feel nice and warmed up in the wrists and the hips. This is one final one for those hips. Now, if you've got any wrist issues, you might want to come up onto the fists. You could also roll up your mat and have that underneath the wrists. This also is a tricky one if you've got shoulder issues. So if you do have shoulder issues or the wrists are really bad, come onto your elbows and have the elbows underneath the shoulders. So I'm going to show you this variation first. The feet want to be in line with the sit bones, and you're just going to be pressing through the legs and lifting up into a bit of a bridge position. So you don't need to come up too high for this to be working your back and your hips, and then coming back down. If that feels okay for the wrists, you come out with the wrists facing the floor. Fingers can be whichever way feels best. So for some people, it's better to have the fingers back, and that's fine. That's going to help you get more external rotation in the shoulders. Okay, and that might feel better for some. Again, feet are just in line with those sit bones as you exhale and lift up, and it doesn't matter if you're here or if you're here. And then we inhale and we come back down. Again, we're going to go for 5 of these. Super strong, pushes up through the hips. Look towards your knees in whichever variation you're in. This is number 3. Don't worry, I'm counting them all as a total of 5. You pick the one that feels good for you. For 4. Knees want to be going over the feet in line with the second and third toe. So when you come down, you should be able to see your big toe. And 5th time, lucky. Smiling and full of joy. And then release everything back down. And then just to finish, shake out those arms, shake out the wrists. Again, feel free to take any of those little stretches that we did earlier on with the wrists. That helps you with their comfort. Okay, and then just to finish, just going to take a simple chest opener. So I'm going to sit onto the side. You can sit on anything that feels comfortable for you. Just going to try and grab hands behind the back. Now, if you can't grab your hands behind the back, you're going to grab the opposite elbow. And that's just going to help you find a way to start to open the shoulders and squeeze the back of the shoulders together. If you can grab the hands together, you can interlace the fingers. And again, just trying to squeeze the shoulders together. So if I turn around, you can see either the elbows squeeze and roll open, or those hands squeeze and roll the shoulders open. And both of which just really try and roll the shoulders back together like they're pinching your spine. And then release it all down. Final little shake out of those arms. And well done. Good work. Let me know how you found it and any other requests that you have. I'm always happy to see if I can fit them in. Have a wonderful day.